Hi, everyone. So, in part one for this week, the first thing I want you to do is look at the comments that I made in your LO veto paragraphs. So, throughout the semester, we're going to be using Turnitin for me to be able to mark a lot of your work. I'll do discussion boards and mark little things through that, but other things that you turn in that you write, that are longer, those are going to come in through Turnitin. And Turnitin does a couple of things. It allows me to grade what you have and put comments in that in a way that's a lot easier for me to do than I do in the discussion boards. It also is going to check for plagiarism. That is to make sure that you are not getting information from other sources. What Turnitin does is it goes out, it has a database of other papers that have been turned in, papers that my students have turned in, other students at QCC and at colleges all around the country have turned in. It checks against those and says, does the paper that you turned in look like any one of those? And if it looks similar to those, then it flags it and says that you have a potential problem there. So I'm going to just go through and show you a couple of things here. There are two other videos in this folder that you're going to need to look at as well. But to start out, I just want to give you some basic information, and then you'll look through the other videos, and they'll show you how to actually get into Turnitin. Those other videos are done by other people. Those are ones that I pulled off of YouTube because it's hard for me to show you some things because I'm not a student, and I can't show you what it looks like to be a student. And so these other videos have shown that. But I'm going to show you a couple things that happen in Turnitin. So when you look at the assignments that you turn in and Turnitin, you'll usually see something up here where I say, click here to see my comments. And it should be fairly straightforward in the sense of what you're supposed to do. It's got a little speech bubble there. And if you click on it, then you will see some comments. As here I said, okay, good, you have a clear topic sentence and support it with details, and you do a very good job of using quotes. You'll at the top of turn in, you'll have something that says something like that. Click here to see my comments, or click here for, if it says click here for anything, click on it and you will see some other information. So you see whenever you have these speech bubbles, you can click in and you can see something else. So down here, I've got another speech bubble. It's talking about the poem El Olvido, and it says, for example, he, talking about what the poet says, and I said, click on it, and you can see I say, no, the poet is actually a woman. Her name is Judith Ortiz Kofer, and so I wanted to be clear about that. If you click on these bubbles, it will provide you with information. That's feedback that I'm giving you. And I want to make sure that you know how to do that. I want to make sure that you're looking at that throughout. I spend a lot of time grading to make sure that, putting these comments in here because that's providing you some direction. There will be other assignments where I'm going to force you to tell me what those comments are, just like I'm doing here. So you want to make sure that you are aware of how to do that, because otherwise you are not getting the information back from me. Another comment, kind of comment that comes up also, I might say something like you have an issue with capitalization. You can't click on that. It says this description is empty. But that I might put that there and say, oh, you've got a problem with capitalization. This person doesn't. But if you had that kind of an issue, know that. Okay, but there isn't any extra information. Over here to the right-hand side in this kind of vertical looking panel, you've got what's called a rubric. A rubric simply says, look, here are certain categories of things that I'm looking for in your assignments. Usually it's going to be things like, do you have a strong thesis? Did you develop the thesis well? Did you use grammar appropriately? Did you use MLA formatting appropriately? Whatever it is that I'm going to be looking for can be in the rubric, and I'll give you a score on that. Over here, I've got kind of a nonsense scoring system. Flavor, how well is the flavor? It's got a 4 on flavor. Color was a 3. Rhythm was perfect, was good. Balance, how well it was only moderately well balanced. This rubric here obviously is just nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. That's what I've done for this because I don't have a real rubric for this. Mainly, one of the main reasons I'm doing this assignment is so that you can have something so you can look up in Blackboard so you can see how the rubric works. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to for the quiz, all the way at the bottom of this folder, I'm going to ask you to tell me, what does it say in your click here to see my comment section? What does it say in any other of these bubbles? And what does it say here in the rubric? What did you get for flavor, color, rhythm, and balance, right? Again, those are just nonsense categories that I have here. But you're going to tell me what scores you got, because everybody got different scores on those. They're random because obviously I can't really grade your assignment on flavor or color, but I want you to tell me what you got there. One other thing in here, you will see some scores in here, some numbers in here, and what these have to do with, like here where it says 0, I'm sorry, 11, what these have to do with is whether or not, how similar your paper is to other papers. So this says it's 11% similar. And what that means is it could find 11% of your paper could be found in other places. Well, and you can kind of see at the bottom here that part of the thing that looks similar is where it says dangerous to use weapons and sharp instruments. You can't see it, it goes off the screen, that you're not familiar with. Well, of course that showed up because that's a quote from the poem. Other people from the class have been quoting from that poem. Other people all around the country have been using that. And so the program says, hey, I recognize this arrangement of words. I've seen this before. And so it's going to flag that and say that your essay is 11% similar to other essays. 11% of your essay comes from other places. Your essay should not be 0 in this category, because if it's 0 in this category, it means you aren't using any quotes, right? You should be using some quotes. So you should have some non-zero number in there. It should say, hopefully say 10%, something like that, 12%, whatever. It should not say 60%, because if it's 60% quotes, that means that more than half of your paper is just quotes coming from someplace else. That's no good. That doesn't make any sense. And so you want some low number below 20% or something like that. That's usually something good. So you don't want it to be 0. You don't want it to be 40, 50, 60%. You want it to be lower, because that, again, that shows you that you are using some quotes, but not too many quotes. So again, the whole idea here is to check and see whether or not you're going to be plagiarizing. And plagiarizing is using words that somebody else has used without attributing them to them. This is okay down here because this person used quotation marks. Okay, they said, quote, dangerous to use weapons and sharp instruments you're not familiar with. That quote comes from the poem. This person put it in quotation marks. That's perfectly fine. Not a problem at all there. And so when you click on this 11, it highlights that and shows you what the issue is. And again, some of this is going to be reviewed in your in the other videos that we have. But so that's generally what I wanted you to look at. To see, you can see that I clicked on the 11 here, and then it showed me what came from other sources. This mark here is the rubric grade, so if I click on that, it'll take a second, then I can see the rubric again, see what score I got in flavor, color, rhythm, and balance, see what those particular scores are, and then again I can always click on these and see what it says underneath the bubbles. So that's what you need to know in order to be able to complete the quiz. Just a matter of making sure that you understand how to check my comments, because that's one of the main ways I keep in touch with you. So go ahead and watch the other videos and take the quiz, and of course, as always, let me know if you have any questions.